All right, I like that nice little touch there.
Yeah.
We're live for another Folks Talking Sports. Houston Roundball Review presents Folks Talking Sports. I am Kris Gardner of the Houston Roundball Review with Andy Yanez from Pod Slamma Jamma. We'll be joined hopefully at some point soon by Willy Gibson. He just moved into a new place, so hopefully he'll be joining us. And then at 7:20 this evening, James Mueller from the Daily Cougar, the sports editor, will pop on with us. We're going to talk some U of H football. But Andy, let's get right into it, man. Milwaukee Bucks, they surprised you. They take a 3-2 lead in the series now. They've won 3 in a row. What are your thoughts on Game 5, man?
They proved me wrong. I remember the last time we recorded, I was pretty down on the Bucks. I think I was leading towards Phoenix closing out that series.
Yeah, we were talking about the Bucks getting swept. I remember us discussing what would we do if should Budenholzer be fired if the Bucks losing 4. So things turned around.
For sure, and it happened so quickly. I think, when you base it off Game 5 specifically, I mean, you got to go to Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton, who have turned it around in games 3 through 5. I've been tweeting this out after Game 4, where I believe I mentioned, for the Bucks to be able to turn it around, it would have to be Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton would have to average probably around 40 to 50 combined, along with Yanez's production, and they have done that. They scored 39 in Game 3. They scored 53 in Game 4, and last night was their best performance together. They scored 56 points, and that was by far Drew Holiday's best performance of the entire NBA Finals. And Chris, I mean, when you mentioned Phoenix, I think something that's kind of been underrated, might not be talked about that much, but the loss of Dario Saric, they're running 8-man rotations there, and they don't have a true backup big for DeAndre Ayton when he gets off the floor to rest.
I'm glad you brought that up. Man, from his new place, new environment, wherever he is, Will Gibson. From outdoors. So, yeah, on location. How you doing, sir?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. You're outdoors, so you missed our intro, man. Little 30-second intro countdown we did at the top of the show here, but we're going forward to some new things. What are your thoughts on Game 5?
You can appreciate this, Chris. I know it's Drew, J-R-U-E, but I'll call him J-Rue, the Damager. After last night, he showed up. This is the Drew Holiday that everyone expected when the trade went down. And I hate to bring it up, but it's what he was traded for: the 3 first-round picks, the 2 draft swaps. He was traded, and the $136 million extension. This is the performance you expected, and he did his thing. I mean, Yanez pretty much didn't do a lot until the fourth quarter. He played his game, but the fourth quarter is when he turned on. It was pretty much the Drew Holiday show in the first half, and then late third, early fourth, it was the Chris Middleton show. And Yanez, if you can fill in the gaps as a 2-time MVP, Yanez filled in the gaps. But I think the youth of Phoenix got exposed a lot. And I knew I was going to bring this up. I didn't think I was going to bring it up this early, but can we please stop with the narrative of Devin Booker and Kobe Bryant, please?
Oh my gosh!
Please, please. I mean, Devin's a great player. Don't get me wrong; he's coming, but I think the narrative is far-reaching. They're reaching a lot to try to connect that narrative, and I think we need to stop it once and for all. He got exposed. His youth got exposed at the end of the game. He dribbled, stopped, and there was 4 players. There were 4 players around him. I forget who I saw mention this, but Drew Holiday made the absolute perfect read. They knew he wasn't going to pass to CP3. They knew it. CP3 is behind the 3-point line, wide open. He dribbled directly into the teeth of the defense, stopped, turned around. Drew Holiday took the ball from him. Didn't steal it. He took it. Literally, took the ball from him.
Yep.
I mean, so that being said,
you're not convinced, are you?
Williams.
You're not convinced.
You know that. We talked about this. I'm not convinced. I am not. Is Mike Budenholzer still the coach of the Milwaukee Bucks?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced. You know, they can give me the Bucks in 6, branded Jimmy stores all they want. Suns in 7.
Okay. I mean, you know, I've been critical of Bud throughout these playoffs, but each time I picked the Bucks to get to the conference finals. I picked them to get to the NBA finals. You know, maybe because I thought the players could do better than Bud, you know, play beyond Bud's coaching. But, you know, to his credit, he stopped playing Bryn Forbes so much. You know, he stuck with Bobby Portis through Bobby's mistakes on defense. You know, he did that last night. Bobby had some lapses on defense. He stuck with Pat Connaughton more than PJ something. PJ Tucker, the last 2 games, is fouling too much. He's taking himself out of the games because of young player fouls, not veterans. Veterans shouldn't do this. These really reach-in fouls and fouling jump shooters and all those things. But game 5, we saw the Bucks. First quarter, 7 turnovers. Looked like they didn't belong on the floor. Second and third quarter, white hot from the floor. Let's lighten up the Suns all over the place. Big lead in the fourth quarter. Last 3 or 4 minutes, they froze and did almost everything wrong to allow the Suns to get back in that game. Milwaukee was punishing Chris Paul. They were looking for whoever Chris Paul was defending. They went at that person and then stopped doing it. And then Chris Paul got hot on offense. You saw Chris Middleton tired. I mean, he played 40-plus minutes. Jrue Holiday kind of went into a shell. Suns crept in it. And then that play, Jrue Holiday being Jrue Holiday, 5 seconds left on the shot clock, inbounds pass. I swear Jrue didn't know how much time left on the shot clock. He's like, ho. Shoot it. Oh, throws up a shot, misses. And then he comes down, makes that great play, taking the ball from Book. And then they got the lead. Jrue, let him foul you. No. I'm going to throw a lob to Yanez. And Yanez with the dunk. I mean, that's Jrue Holiday summary. That's the Bucks summary. They won game 5, but I'm like you, Will. I'm not convinced they're going to win game 6 at home, man. So I'm not convinced. What do you think, Andy? Will the Bucks close out at 6 on Tuesday?
When it comes to the Bucks, it's been so confusing. It's hard to trust Milwaukee, but I think when you look at the Phoenix Suns roster, I think that injury to Dario Saric is a lot more significant for Phoenix than anyone else has made it out to be. Just in terms of when it comes to DeAndre Ayton resting, they don't have a big man there. I mean, they have Frank Kaminsky. He didn't play game 5, and he played a little bit once Dario Saric initially got injured. And I believe they have another big, is it Jalen Smith or, someone like that. But I mean, he hasn't gotten on the floor. And that's big because when DeAndre Ayton is off the court, the Suns can't really stop Yanez. They've tried to double team him, and that's led to open shots. Give credit to Pat Connaughton for knocking down those 3-pointers when he has them. Jrue Holiday probably had his best game of the series. I wouldn't bet on him repeating the performance he had last night, but they don't need Jrue Holiday to play like that. If Chris Middleton and Jrue can, like I mentioned, hover around what they've done, obviously I wouldn't expect Jrue Holiday to have that big of a performance just to keep defending Chris Paul. And, don't make those mistakes. Don't make those turnovers. And like you mentioned, that lob, it could have quickly gone the other way had Yanez not thrown it down and given Phoenix one more chance. But I feel like they have too much going in Milwaukee's favor for them to not close it out. But I wouldn't be surprised if there's a Thursday game 7, but I'd probably go with Milwaukee closing it out in 6 on Tuesday.
Yanez missed 7 free throws last night.
Mm-hmm.
The Bucks still won.
Yeah.
Phoenix shot 68% from 3. The Bucks still won. Chris Paul, for his defensive struggles, and a lot of folks are questioning, what's wrong with CP? He had a great game.
He showed out.
He had a great game. He got it rolling in the fourth quarter. And the Suns still lost.
Phoenix won the 3-point battle.
Booker scored 40 again. And the Suns still lost. So, okay. Before James Mueller from the Cougar joins us in about 10 minutes, what can Monty Williams and the Suns do to win game 6 in Milwaukee? Will?
Oh, let's see. They have to. It's gonna sound crazy. Devin Booker can't score 40 again. If he scores 40 again, that means he's picking up the slack from somebody else. And I think they need more balance. I mean, Mikal Bridges, he was 5 for 6. He hit his first 5 shots. He finished with 13, but I mean, he plays his role. He played stellar defense, but a little more from him, perhaps. Cameron Johnson off the bench. I think the Suns had 15 bench points.
Yep, 15. Yep.
Cameron Johnson has to give him a little bit more. I know he's played a tremendous role in this playoff, not just the finals, but in the playoffs. He's a rookie or a second year player. Apologize for that, but if he can get a little bit more going off that bench, like you said, 8-man rotation, the bench is shortened. Without Saric, and they're not going to go past 8. So if he could give them a little bit more, and CP3 can come back with 19 and 11, or 26 for that matter, it's going to take that type of performance, and at the same time, figure out a way to make Jrue Holiday shoot 4 for 20 again. Because in Game 4 in Milwaukee, he shot 4 for 20. If they can get that type of performance, that type of defensive performance on him, they go back Thursday night, winner take all Game 7.
Okay, I'm going to say this. Andy, you tell me if you agree. I don't believe the Suns can stop the Bucks from scoring. I think Jrue Holiday can miss a lot of layups like he did earlier in the series, but I don't believe the Suns can stop. If Phoenix needs to get a stop, 2 stops in a row, they can't do it. What do you think?
I agree. I don't think they have the personnel, especially when you look at how they've struggled to guard Yanez, and what they have done now, what they did in Game 5 was start doubling whenever he would catch it in the low post area, and that's leaving an extra player open. Like you mentioned, Chris, I feel like Milwaukee can get an open shot probably every time down once they really attack, if they don't settle for any shots. I think for Phoenix to win this game, it's going to have to be on Milwaukee. Milwaukee has to have one of those cold shooting nights where they can't hit anything. I mean, if Chris Middleton is going and Jrue Holiday plays not exactly as he did last game, but gives you about, I'd say, 80% of what he did in Game 5, I don't think Phoenix has enough to beat Milwaukee.
Chris Paul had 21, 11. He was 9 for 15 and that's one turnover. Just one.
Yeah, that's a good
Bucks
game
still,
for Chris Paul.
So, Will, at you, man. Can Phoenix, when necessary, stop Milwaukee?
When necessary, yes.
Oh,
yes. When necessary.
Tell me who. Tell me why. Tell me how.
Well, I kind of played on the caveat when necessary. Now for 48 minutes, probably not.
Oh no, down the stretch.
Down the stretch. If Jay Crowder and DeAndre Ayton, Jay Crowder started out hot last night. First quarter, he set the tone, and then we never saw him again. If he can develop, and this has been consistently inconsistent for him this series. Game 1, he had 1 point. He missed all 8 of his field goals, if I remember properly. And then, he showed up a little, and then we didn't see him anymore. And last night, he showed up in the first quarter, and then we didn't see him anymore. So if we get some consistent pressure from Jay Crowder, if they can find some way to sneak DeAndre Ayton some rest throughout the course of the game, so he's not playing 41, 42, 43 minutes. I think he played
45
43,
last night.
44 minutes. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So if they can find some way to do that, then I think so.
Because Jay Crowder took 7 shots. Most of those are in the first quarter. He scored 10 points during the third quarter, when the Bucks were third quarter and early fourth quarter, and the Bucks were just seemingly attacking Chris Paul all the time. People questioning what's wrong with CP. Jay Crowder's plus minus was worse than Chris Paul's. Okay. For the game, Jay Crowder's was -7, Chris Paul's -6. So, and Chris Paul was 21, 11, and 1 turnover. Jay Crowder was 10, 5, 3 assists, 2 steals. He didn't take enough shots. He had 1 offensive rebound. Now, granted, both teams shot 50+% from offense last night. So there weren't a whole lot of misses to grab. But that missed free throw, the Suns didn't get it. That's how you seal defense. Getting a rebound. That defense rebound. Because if you can play good defense for 23, 24 seconds, shot goes up, hits the rim, and you don't get the rebound, other team gets it and scores, your good defense wasn't great. Wasn't good enough because you didn't close the possession and get the ball. So I'm going to say it right now, Will. Andy, I might be wrong. I'm leery of it because I have given me reason to doubt it for a long time.
Ooh.
Bucks going to win it in 6. Bucks going to win it in 6. Going to represent Central Division in the NBA, bring home a championship for the Central Division. Bucks going to win in Milwaukee, close it out game 6 Tuesday night. Maria Taylor's going to go to NBC on Wednesday.
Okay, so who's hosting NBA Countdown on Thursday for Game 7?
Well, apparently they said they worked out an extension agreement, a friendly agreement for Maria to work through the finals. Oh. But I'm saying she'll be done Tuesday. Her job will be done.
Fair enough.
Of course, I'm not going to spend any money making a bet on that. But I am going to say I am picking the Bucks to win it in 6 to close it out. If that happens, what does that say to Chris Paul's legacy?
He finally got to the finals. I mean, he got to the finals. He lost. He lost as a 36-year-old in the finals for the first time. I don't think it damages it. I mean, he got there. And I don't think that's a negative that he lost in the finals.
Okay, I don't know the numbers, but teams that go up 2-0 in the finals go on to win 80+% of the time. So he and the Suns would be one of those, if it's 20%, whatever the percentage is, to lose after going up 2-0. That doesn't taint his legacy at all. A little bit in your eyes, the haters gonna find anything to pick at Chris Paul. So, but what do y'all say? Andy, what do you say?
I would say in the grand scheme of things, it shouldn't. I mean, once Chris Paul got traded out of the Houston Rockets, it seemed like, Chris Paul's career was coming to an end. Honestly, when they shipped him out to Oklahoma City, no one expected him to lead that team to the playoffs in the resurgence that he had, fueled by spite or whatever he might have been fueled by once he got sent out of Houston. I think the accomplishment just to get to the finals, especially with Phoenix, where honestly they kind of came out of left field before the season started. No one would have picked them to be the team representing the Western Conference at the beginning of the season. So he's had his struggles this series. I don't see how you could use that against him, especially in terms of what he has been able to accomplish and where people probably thought this Phoenix team would be when the season started.
All right, we're getting close to hopefully Mr. Mueller is punctual. James Mueller from the Daily Cougar joins us to talk some U of H football. Will, real quick, did you have a chance to look at the article I sent about Michigan Wolverines football and the jersey deal?
I did see that.
Okay. How long will it be before the Ohio State Buckeyes do something similar?
It'll be a while because Ohio State is on a different track. I mean, that Michigan piece, their state has some laws on the books that could throw a nice little monkey wrench in that. I read that article and I'm like, the compliance and the rules they've set forth, I don't know how successful that'll be, but as far as Ohio State, they met with their top 20 sponsors. The athletic director, Gene Smith, met with them this is July, I'll say January, in anticipation of the NIL coming down the line. and they've already set up sponsorships and situations that student athletes can benefit that way. Jersey sales.
Hold that thought, Will. We're gonna come back.
Okay.
I'm gonna pick your brain on that some more. But he is on time. Good for him. Representing the youth of America. James, is it Mueller?
Yes, sir.
Outstanding. Andy wasn't super sure how to pronounce it, and I wasn't either. So James Mueller, the sports editor from the Daily Cougar, University of Houston campus paper, joining us. We're going to talk some U of H football. Yes, folks, that's right. We're going to talk some U of H football. Mm-hmm. James, have you had a chance to look at the roster, see anything so far in workouts, or what do you know so far about U of H football for this coming season?
Yeah, so for this year, I mean, it's Dana Holgerson's third year. It's a must-win year. Like many college programs, third year you got to do something, and they haven't been very good in his first 2 years. And they have the schedule to put up 8 or 9 wins at least. If you look at their non-conference schedule, every non-conference game they should win, except for Texas Tech. That could be a toss-up. But every other game in that, they should win. And then while the American will be a decent football conference, a lot of the teams like Tulsa and other teams that had surprisingly good seasons last year lost some key pieces. So there's a chance for Houston to pick up some extra wins in conference play this year.
See, that James sounds like he watched our last show. Because we were going down the schedule. We had U of H, I think, 8 wins?
Yeah, I said that 8 wins should be the minimum.
Yeah. Had them going 3-1 non-conference. The one loss would be Texas Tech. Oh, we just lost Will. Okay, but so got the H-Town fellas popping up talking now. But yeah, James, we had them at minimum 8-4 because their conference games, they're not playing the great teams in the American. So they do have a chance. But your intro was right on point. You mentioned that Dana Holgerson needs to win his third year. Is the seat kind of warm, James? Could Holgerson, based on this year's schedule being, we think, kind of easy, if he doesn't get 6 wins, if they have a losing record, is he in trouble? In your opinion?
I don't know for sure, but I definitely think he should. I mean, he should be worried if they don't have a good season, just given that they've been 7-13 in his first 2 seasons here. While Houston doesn't get the top, 4 or 5-star recruits, it's still a football hub with tons of talent. And so he should be able to put together a team, and especially given his success at West Virginia in the Big 12 when he was playing in a arguably much harder conference with the teams they're facing, and he had success there. So if he can't do that at Houston, then yes, I do think he should be worried, and his job is up in the air depending on how the season goes.
And we got a question, and we're going to do it again. So let's just go down the schedule. They open up versus Texas Tech, September 4th at NRD Stadium. We think that's going to be the loss of the 4 non-conference games would probably be that one.
Yes, you're correct. If they are to lose one, that would be the only one. But it is a very winnable game because Texas Tech, while they are a Big 12 school, they haven't been that great in the past 5-6 years. So it's a winnable game. But if they are to lose one, yes, this would be the one.
All right. Next, September 11th at Rice.
You got to win that one. I mean,
say it again, James. Say it again.
You got to win that one. Like Rice, I mean, first of all, it's an in-town rivalry. And second of all, Rice football they've had one good season in the past 10, 11 years. It's a must-win game.
Next, September 18th, Grambling.
Another one. It's home. You gotta be able to win.
Agreed. I was surprised. I wish you were here. Yeah, I was gonna say, Andy. Tamer said our last show that she was kind of leaning toward Grambling upsetting U of H, and the rest of us were like, hell no.
If that happened.
Yeah.
Kris, what did you say? You said if that happened, Dana Holgerson should be fired right then and there.
Yes. If that happens, he should even quit. If that can be Grambling home game, he should quit right after the game. Yeah. All right, James. So that's if the loss at Tech, beat Rice, beat Grambling, 2-1. Okay, conference play starts September 25th versus Navy home game.
I mean, they beat them last year, and they've sort of Navy always, is difficult to prepare for just because of the triple option. You don't see it often, but talent-wise, Houston has the better roster, and that's a winnable game, and that's one they should win.
And honestly, U of H dominated them this past season when they played. I mean, they limited. I think throughout the game, Navy didn't crack 100 yards rushing until the final play of the game, or one of the final plays in that game. They dominated Navy, and that was I can't even say it. Annapolis.
Yeah.
Annapolis. Yeah, Annapolis. That was in their home. Now they come over here at U of H. You'd expect them to be able to put another good performance against Navy, but they have given them struggles in the past.
Next, Friday at Tulsa on ESPN.
So yeah, Tulsa was a surprising team last year. They made the conference championship game. They surprised people, but they lost some key players, including Zaven Collins. So I think they should win that game, just given the pieces. Tulsa will still be a good team, but I think it's a winnable game.
Okay, so we're now at 4-1, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. After Tulsa, at Tulane, Thursday, October 7th. So we got Navy on the 25th of September, Saturday, at Tulsa on a Friday, and then at Tulane on a Thursday.
Yeah, so that's the key there. This could be more like a trap game. Houston is better than Tulane, and they have more talent. They dominated them last year after a slow start, and they should win this game. But that's the key. The short turnaround, it can cause sort of a trap game where they're tired from playing 3 games in 18 days or something like that. So yeah, that's a game to mark on your schedule. It should be a win, but you got to see if they're really prepared, and that's one they can't take lightly.
Okay, I'll just play devil's advocate. Say that's a loss. So
Okay.
4-2. Next, got a bye week, then homecoming, October 23rd, Saturday versus ECU.
That's another game they should win. I mean, you got to win that game. These are against teams that should be in the lower half of the American, and that you got to win against the bottom half of your conference if you're going to have any shot at competing for a conference title.
All right, that's 5-2. October 30th, home versus SMU, Saturday.
Now, this is a game I have circled. I think this one will be very interesting. SMU is getting a quarterback by the name of Tanner Mordecai. He transferred from OU. He's very talented, but he's struggled with injuries, and he's also been behind some good quarterbacks when he was at Oklahoma, and Jalen Hurts and Spencer Rattler. But if he's healthy, I think I'd give SMU the advantage just because he's got a lot of talent, and I think he'll present problems to the UH defense.
Andy, what do you say about that?
Yeah, I agree. In years past, I would say this would probably be a clear-cut SMU being the favorite entering the game. But there's a little bit of uncertainty depending on how SMU will be, just in terms of them no longer having Shane Buechele at quarterback. So it'll be interesting to see how that offense responds to new quarterback. And I think it'll be a little bit of a question mark in the terms of the point of the season where it will be. They'll probably have a better sense of what their offense looks like. So it being in Houston, I think it's an interesting toss-up, but I would probably give the lean towards SMU just in terms of how they've been able to accomplish the past few seasons.
Okay, so we got 5-3. Agreed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Next, November 6th, Saturday at USF.
This is another must-win game. USF has struggled in the past, 3-4 years at least. And while they have shown improvements, this is still Houston is the better team on paper, and this is a game that they should win.
Okay.
Yeah, another team U of H dominated last season.
Okay. So there's a lot of wins here, fellas. November 13th, Saturday at Temple.
Another one, same category. Temple is one of those teams that will throw a wrench in some American teams. They'll pull off an upset or two, but this is another game that Houston should win, and if they play to their capabilities, they will win.
Okay. Andy, you agree?
Yeah, I agree that it's a game that U of H should win, and they should win by double figures, if we're being honest.
So we got 2 losses so far.
Three.
Three losses, right. Got an SMU. So so Texas Tech, Tulane, and SMU.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Okay. November 19th, Friday, ESPN2 home senior day versus Memphis.
This is one of those challenging ones. Last year's game was super exciting, came down to the wire, back and forth. In Memphis, they do lose a few key pieces, but they're always competitive in the conference. And so this is one that is another toss-up. But since it is senior day, I have to give the advantage to Houston just being at home, a little more extra motivation. But this is one I can see going either way.
Yeah, those U of H Memphis games always seem to end up going down to the wire regardless of the sport it is. And last year, U of H was getting dominated for much of the game when they had this crazy rally in the fourth. I think one thing the U of H has an edge over these two teams, or honestly, a lot of these teams, is just stability at quarterback. They're having Clayton Tune, who's been under Dana Holgerson's system all 3 years that he's been here. That's probably the advantage they have over Memphis and SMU, who are going to be in a bit of a new situation at quarterback. But it's a question mark just in terms of what we've seen the past few seasons, how Memphis has been able to get the better of U of H.
All right, going to close out the season non-conference now because I'm no longer a member of the AAC. November 27th, Saturday, 11 a.m. Central Time at UConn.
This is another game Houston has to win. I mean, they're familiar with UConn just given that they have been in the American for so long before just leaving. And UConn has never been that great at football. They're a basketball school. And so this is a game that, Houston has to win. And hopefully they need to cap off their season with a victory to put them in the best position to get a quality bowl game.
Yeah. What James said, that could also be, a trap game once the conference schedule ends. If they have a really good conference schedule, I mean, they might be looking at the championship game at whoever would be there. You'd imagine, or you'd assume it'd be Cincinnati on that other end, but this might be a game they look over, and it could be a trap game too.
All right, so 3 or 4 losses, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Theoretically, they should have at least at the minimum 8 wins.
Okay.
I agree.
So we all agree on that. And anything less, Holgerson should be in trouble.
With this schedule.
Yeah, I say with this schedule, 7, maybe he gets a little, they show a little leniency, but with this schedule, he should be able to get at least 8.
Yeah, and we're not, well, I'm going to say y'all, chime in. I'm not saying that they're a great team. I'm just saying their schedule is kind of weak, and they have a chance to be the better team 8 times this year, this season. Okay.
Yeah.
James, who is going to be starting quarterback for the Cougs?
Andy talked about it a little earlier, but Clayton Tune has been the guy. Dana Holgerson really likes him. He's had now about a season and a half of starting experience under his belt. He started all of last year, and he took over the year before, midway through the season, when De'Aaron King announced he was going to redshirt the year before transferring to Miami. So that's one thing I do think Houston has an advantage is quarterback, because Tune's experience, and he's shown he has the tools to be the guy for UH. Because he has, like Andy said, flashes of brilliance. He's really good with his legs, but then he'll also make really dumb mistakes. And that's the main thing Dana Holgerson emphasized over this spring ball, was that their main goal with Tune is cutting down the really bad, because it's that really bad that gets him in trouble. And if he can cut down that and just, take a throwaway rather than heaving the ball downfield and it getting picked off and stuff, I think he has a chance to really show some improvement and be a quality starting quarterback for Houston.
James, in your opinion, what position should be or looks to be the strength of the football team?
I mean, this might surprise people, but honestly, I think you got to go with the defensive line. They lost their best lineman in Peyton Turner. He was a first-round pick by the Saints. He could do everything. But despite that, the key this year is they have depth at that position. They brought in some transfers with Power 5 playing experience, and then they've had some development of a few different guys. And one that I think will really break out this year is Logan Hall. Coaches have been raving about his performance in spring ball, and he's just the way his body's built, he has the size to really be a force down there. So yeah, I'd say the defensive line is going to be where the heart and soul of this team.
Is there anybody in the conference that will compete with Cincinnati?
See, you can go ahead first, Andy, if you want, if you have a thought.
No, I was just going to say that is a tricky question because there's just a lot of uncertainty with this conference, just in terms of, the teams in the past that have been up there, and obviously Tulsa was the team that made it to the championship game last season. But James, you can give me your thoughts on this. That was more, in my opinion, an anomaly than Tulsa being consistently at that level. I feel like they have to show it. And when you look at the other teams that have been in that top tier in the American Athletic Conference with Memphis and SMU and UCF as well, a lot of those teams have a lot of question marks, especially at quarterback. So I think a lot of it has to be, wait and see approach. But I think right now Cincinnati is a level ahead of everyone else in the conference.
And since we're talking Cincinnati, let's bring back in Willy Gibson from Ohio to talk about. He might be try to be impartial, sir. I mean, this is not the Ohio State Buckeyes. We're talking about the Cincinnati Bearcats football team. So you shook your head saying there's nobody else in the conference that can beat them. Go ahead, talk about the Bearcats.
Well, you have me being partial. I can't lose. Head coach Luke Fickell is graduate of the Ohio State University, but I digress. No, I think Cincinnati. I mean, he's building a powerhouse down there. I mean, he got the job, and he's turned down overtures from several high-profile universities. Probably another overture coming this season, depending on how a certain Big Ten East Division football school finishes. But he's just building the program. He's doing it. He's bringing in talent. He's bringing in kids. He's bringing in NFL talent. I mean, he's getting players drafted third, fourth, fifth round consistently since he's been there. He lost his defensive coordinator, Marcus Freeman, to Notre Dame. But I think Luke, being a defensive coordinator himself at Akron and also here at Ohio State, he's going to pick up the slack there. And I think just what he has there and what he's building there is special. And I think he, as Andy said, is head and shoulders above the remainder of the conference. And I think it's going to continue to be that way as long as he chooses to be there.
I had a chance to read an article in The Athletic speaking to high school coaches in Ohio, and all of them gave high praise to Coach Fickell and his job of keeping in touch with them, recruiting, building relationships, establishing constant contact with them, keeping talent in Cincinnati, in the state of Ohio. So it's great for Cincinnati. It may not be great for the other teams in the American, but it's great for the conference, because if at some point the the committee decides to expand and go to that 12-team playoff and not have automatic spots, as long as they're in the American, I think Cincinnati has a great chance to represent the conference in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody thoughts on that?
I mean, I agree. Like both of y'all have touched on, Fickell's done a great job recruiting. He's made it competitive, even though Cincinnati should be getting dominated by Ohio State in recruiting. He's gotten some top tier athletes, gotten good guys, and really built a program that players want to be around. And even though, they'll lose guys every year that were key contributors, he just keeps refilling them and replacing them with other solid, highly talented guys. And I think, this is a program that's not one that's, just good for a few years, but one that just continues to replenish and becomes one of those dominant teams in the ACC or AAC for years to come.
Mm-hmm. James, have you heard how things are going for the Cougs in terms of recruiting?
Somewhat. Holgerson he met with us, the media, after signing day in April, I think. But he hasn't really talked a ton about the 2022 class. But in terms of 2021, as of a few months ago, Houston still had 4 or 5 spots left to fill, and they were looking to bring in either various transfers. I know they brought in a few international guys and stuff like that. So he was more focused on filling those 2021 roster spots rather than more the 3 years in the future, wherever you want to look at it like that.
I'm going to toss this out to all of you. Andy, you brought this up to me, brought it to my attention earlier today about Chris Pesman, article in the Chronicle from Joseph Duarte. Chris Pesman, AD for U of H, mentioned that the possibility of teams having to forfeit if they don't have enough healthy players this season to compete in football is being discussed. And he also mentioned that U of H a football team has, 70% of the players have been vaccinated?
Correct. Yeah, around there.
What do y'all think about that, James? Should teams have to forfeit this year compared to last year when U of H really took a hit from opponents not being able to have to postpone games or cancel games because of COVID?
Yeah, I mean, that's a tricky question. I mean, since the vaccine is readily available, there's always the option players should have gotten vaccinated and this wouldn't have happened. And like we saw in the NCAA tournament with VCU having to drop out because they had COVID cases. So that's going to be a tricky issue that not everyone can agree on. But I do think I think forfeiting is a viable option if rescheduling is completely not possible. I think you should try to reschedule it if possible. But like last year, given Houston's schedule, they had to reschedule so many games. They had the most cancellations in all of college football Division I. And so when it becomes a tricky situation like that, then you're going to get into areas when you do need, this has to be a forfeit. We just don't have enough spaces to fill in. If we're having 5 teams cancel or get postponed, we can't fit all of them in the rest of the season.
Oh, was Will upside down?
Yeah, Will's just going upside down there, man. Yeah. What are you doing over there, bro? But yeah, Andy, what do you think, man? Should teams have to forfeit if they don't have enough players?
Yeah, like James said, it's a tricky situation just in terms of the vaccine being available, especially, in areas, especially in Houston, where there's a lot of, honestly, the demand for the vaccine is not as high. Anyone that really wants it can probably go out there and get it. And especially going back to last season, there was U of H and Baylor ended up canceling less than 24 hours before that kickoff was supposed to happen. I think in situations like that, honestly, especially depending on where the individual teams are in terms of team getting vaccinated, I could see them going with getting penalized. It's a tricky situation because, of course, it's been a debate ever since the vaccines happened of, it's my choice, should I get vaccinated, this or that. If the NCAA or the individual conferences decide to, penalize teams for having COVID issues, especially if their vaccination percentage isn't high, I wouldn't be against it, but I know that would probably be a controversial topic if any conference or the NCAA as a whole decided to do that.
Will, what do you think about it? Should teams have to forfeit games because of COVID? Not enough players? Guess Will can't hear us. All right, well, gonna have to bump him out and have him come back in because he didn't seem to hear the question there. We'll come back to him. Well, James, let's talk some basketball, man. U of H basketball. And I'm going to make this announcement here publicly. See if James is available. He may become a regular on these live stream shows if he has the time to join us to talk some U of H football and basketball going forward. And I'm putting out the invitation to the Thresher, that's Rice, TSU as well. You all want to come join us on these shows, just hit me up and we'll make it happen. So I have no problem discussing everybody, all the teams in H-Town at the seat of the table. So let's do that. So U of H basketball. James, what are your thoughts? Because I've talked about it with Andy many times. But what were your impressions of last year's Final Four team? Were you surprised they made it to the Final Four?
Yes, I was surprised they made it to the Final Four. I thought they'd make it Sweet 16, maybe Elite 8. But I was surprised they made it to the Final Four. But with the job Kelvin Sampson's done each year, being able to build this program from the ground up really when he came to Houston and really get the kids to buy in, it didn't surprise me I was surprised but not surprised because, they just play in such a way that everyone's completely bought in. They show more effort and energy than any other team in the country. So it all paid off. And it shows really what Houston is capable of being as a basketball school.
And I spoke with Taylor Eldridge from the Wichita Eagle, Kansas.com, interviewed him a few days ago to get his thoughts on the Shockers, of course, the conference as well, and U of H. And he is just, as long as Kelvin Sampson, it's Taylor talking, as long as Kelvin Sampson is at U of H, Taylor believes, like many of us do, that U of H will be in contention for conference championships and deep runs in the tournament. But he was also surprised that they made it to the Final Four. Mm-hmm. I was too. Mm-hmm. I didn't believe last year's team was better than the 33-4 year team. But breaks happen, things go your way, things don't go your way. Last season's team made it to the Final Four. I think this year's team maybe deeper, maybe more athletic. But that does not mean that's not a guarantee to get back to the Final Four. So that's the fun thing about sports, and one and done tournament. James, what are your thoughts on? Oh, good, yeah. Thank you for this. Had a comment popped up on our YouTube channel for this. Were you surprised that Bryson Gresham transferred to Texas Southern?
A little bit, but not completely. I didn't think he would be back at Houston just because they'd filled most of their spots, and Kelvin Sampson has always talked about, the importance of developing those freshmen and other guys that they get in there that are younger and then actually getting them, meaningful playing time, which he's done really well. So I felt like, Gresham's spot, he wouldn't have had a clear-cut role in the team. So I either expected him to either sign some international deal or to transfer to another school. And like you said, he ended up choosing TSU.
Andy, what do you think about that? Were you surprised?
Yeah, James hit it right in the nail. I think I was more surprised that he chose to return to college ball. So I wasn't really surprised that he chose to transfer out of Houston. And Kris, you talked about this, maybe, the international offers weren't as strong or whatever were his factors into coming back to college ball. I think transferring out of Houston's the best decision for him, using that super senior season due to the COVID rules. I mean, obviously in Houston, even this past season, he saw his role, get reduced to about 15, 20 minutes a game. And that was without Fabian White. Now that Fabian White will be back, you got a lot of new bigs. The bigs that were already there with Kieran Powell and Reggie Chaney, and then you add the new crop that's coming in from the freshmen. His role wouldn't have been defined, and he probably would have struggled to see minutes on the floor with U of H.
Oh yeah, he would have struggled for minutes. Fabian, Reggie Chaney, I think Josh Carlton is better than Bryson Gresham. And then you got the younger guys, Juwan Roberts, JVA Francis. U of H front court is
stacked. They're loaded.
They're stacked, and the team is positioned to be like the typical U of H teams have been recently, too deep at every position.
Yeah,
and too deep at the 5 spot. That's not including Bryson. He wasn't going to play at U of H this year. I think we haven't heard from Kelvin about his, in a media setting, but it wouldn't surprise me if Coach Sampson, spoke with Coach Johnny Jones at TSU, and they, talked about Bryson and believe Bryson would be a good fit at TSU, and decided to just help each other out. TSU, U of H basketball have really become joined at the hip the last few years because of U of H having to play over at TSU and how well that went for the whole season. The it's a neighborhood schools. So, I mean, they're not far from each other. So they have a good relationship. So I think Coach Sampson put in a good word with Coach Jones for Bryson to go over there at TSU. And I think Bryson can do well in the SWAC. Although the SWAC really is a guard league. It's a guard-dominated league. So it's not too many big men dominate. So that might be a problem, you know, if Bryson has to defend on the perimeter, things like that. But I wish him the best. He's a great guy, great young man. I think he'll enjoy TSU and have a chance to go back to the tournament with a different team. So that's going to be interesting as well. So, James, anything you want to toss out there, man? We haven't talked about U of H athletics so far?
I mean, I'd be interested to hear your guys' thoughts on just, you know, sticking with basketball on Kyler Edwards, and I sort of view him, you know, he's been with some good Texas Tech teams that he went to the championship with Chris Beard in 2019. I sort of view him as sort of, they want him to take that Quentin Grimes leap, maybe not the full way, but that leap that Quentin Grimes showed from year one at Houston to year two, and really became, you know, a reliable scorer, and was a big reason why they made Houston made such a big run in the NCAA tournament.
You know, this is July 18th. Top of my head, I think Kyler Edwards will be in the starting lineup. Fabian White will as well. Marcus Sasser will. Reggie Chaney, probably. I'm not sure. And who'd you say, Andy?
Tremont Mark.
Yeah. That's a stout starting five right there, you know. Mm-hmm. And then he came off the bench. Jamal Shedd, Josh Carlton, Juwan Roberts, Taze Moore. I mean, I haven't named JVA Francis, Ramon Walker, Robbie Armbrester. This team is athletic. They're deep. They got a good balance between youth and experience. I'm looking forward to the season. Hopefully we'll be able to see practice in person sometimes, at least at the end of it, you know, things like that, because COVID took that away, really. Go ahead,
Andy. No, I mean, I was just going to talk on James's question in terms of Kyler Edwards and what his role could be with Houston. I think it's interesting. When was the last time that I can't remember exactly when Kelvin talked. I think it was sometime in May or June, around there, but he mentioned, you know, how they had always liked Kyler Edwards when he was a freshman, and ultimately they just decided, I think he said they chose Nate Hinton or someone else that had signed with U of H instead, so they had always had that connection when they were recruiting him, and when the opportunity came for him to transfer over from Texas Tech, it was already like a perfect fit. So I think in terms of that role, obviously they're going to need someone to fill that void that Quentin Grimes is leaving. I wouldn't exactly put those expectations to have that kind of impact on him, just in terms of how good Quentin Grimes was his final year here. But I think, you know, like you mentioned, Chris, his team is so deep, and I think he'll be the starter, but his load won't be as much, honestly, that any of the guards that are, you can't expect any of them to fill the roles that Dejan is leaving, Quentin is leaving. I think it's going to be a lot more. It's going to be a true. Honestly, they could be a 9-man rotation, probably even 10 throughout the season, and we'll see how it goes from there.
I think Kyler could be more Dejan, and then we'll see who of Marcus and Tremont who could be close to Quentin. You know, Tremont has to get, obviously, going from freshman to technically sophomore, but back to freshman, you know, officially, but second season in the program. If he gets stronger, and definitely got to be more consistent, but the potential is there. You know, we heard plenty of times during media sessions the players talked about how your mom puts him, gives him the business in practice. He's got to be consistent, and hopefully no COVID setbacks, because his first, 3-4 games of his freshman year, he was very good. And then COVID hit, and then he struggled. But if he can get back to those first 3-4 game performances, U of A is going to the tournament. We all know that. It's just a question of seed and how far they're going to go in the tournament. So, all right, James, this has been great, man. Thank you very much. How can folks find you? See the crossing on there. What else do you do at the Cougar, man? Well, let me put you on the spot. What was it like working with Andy Yanez, man? Was he a pain in the butt? Was he a great guy? What was it? What was he like?
No, working with Andy was great. I remember my freshman year, so in 2019, I went to the first game I covered live was a women's basketball game. I think UH was playing OU, and Andy took me and sort of walked me to the media section, sat with me the whole time, then took me down to the media room after, where we did the actual, in-person press conference stuff that we haven't done in a year since COVID. So I really got to experience that, and I'm just really grateful for how he showed me the ropes that way. So he was the one who sort of was one of the guys that I could go to when I first joined the Cougar. And then last year as his assistant, he was just great, teaching me WordPress, which is what we use to edit stuff, our articles. And he was also, gave me helpful writing tips. And I feel like he's been a big reason for my growth, both as a writer and just as a sports observer and analyst. In general.
Wow,
that's
Andy.
awesome.
Yeah,
Kris, I did not pay him to say that.
I was going to ask you if you gave him, send him anything via Cash App or anything like that. That's great, man. James, let me ask you this: are there any women on the staff?
Yes, we do have. We have one, or no, we have 3 now. Actually, we had 2 more that just joined, and we've had one that's been with us for a while, named Jayla, and she's been great. So yeah, that's an area we're also looking to improve on or expand on, because we want the women's voice in sports, like a bunch of different outlets are pushing for. And I think that's important too at U of H, to really reflect our student body and the coverage that we can give from different standpoints.
Okay, that's great. And I'm going to ask you to put Jayla, or specifically her, because I think I've seen her on a Zoom call, maybe for U of H women's basketball. I invite her to join the Folks Talkin Sports stream shows in the future, or any of the young ladies on the Cougar to join, to get their perspective of U of H athletics on these shows. I'm all for that. So keep that in mind. What are we going to say, Andy?
No, I was going to say that's one of the things that I try to make an emphasis is in terms of our staff. Jayla has been there she's been there, honestly, she joined probably like a month or 2 after I joined the Cougar. But just in terms of our women's coverage, this is something that irked me my first year. I remember we butchered the women's basketball coverage of the last time that UConn played at Fertitta Center, and we didn't have anyone to cover that in person. And I remember that was something that always bugged me, and we tried to I made it a focus for this past season. With obviously COVID, everything was a little different, but just in terms of how we covered women's basketball, that's something that I tried to make it a point of emphasis, to actually have someone at least on the Zooms for most of the games. I think we probably did have one for every game, and most of them for sure. And I tried to make sure it was like every game, because that really irked me. But we have one question. I'm interested to hear James's thoughts on that question about the baseball team.
Yeah, ask about James' thoughts on baseball and Coach Whitting, and then we'll let you go.
Yeah, I mean, according to sources I've talked to, I don't think Whitting will be gone this offseason. I think he's got one more year. Just because, I mean, if they were going to do it, I think they would have done it after the season ended. And they've also brought in a new hitting coach and other staff, so they're sort of already working around it. I do think it will be a tough year for baseball. You've already seen they've had some of their best players and really some young players that showed potential that didn't get a ton of playing time last year, but would have stepped up into a role this year transfer already. So they're down that. They lost their best pitcher to the draft in Robert Gasser. There's a few other guys who were more experienced, and they were solid players. They weren't studs or stars or anything but they were solid, role players who could add to the team that have signed professional contracts with different MLB organizations. So I think it's going to be a tough year, just given everything they've lost. It's going to be a lot of new faces. You're not going to, most casual UH baseball fans won't recognize most of the faces on the team. And so, yeah, I think it's going to be a tough year. But the pressure's on because, like I said, I think Whitting, if he doesn't have a good year this year, they're going to have to go in a different direction in terms of the coaching staff and bringing in some new people.
James Mueller, sports editor of Daily Cougar, with some somber news about U of H baseball for the upcoming season. James, man, thank you very much. Will you be able to join us for our next show?
I should be able to. I mean, I appreciate you having me, and this is great. I always enjoy talking any type of sport, really. So, yeah, I mean, if I'm available, I'm there for sure.
Okay, we'll reach out to you and we'll try to touch base. Okay, last thing for you.
His finals prediction.
Yes, Bucks Suns. Is it over in 6 or is it going 7?
I do think the Bucks will win in 6. I think the Suns just emotionally, having lost those last 2 games, and they haven't been able to get the stops they needed defensively, and also offensive rebounds. The Bucks have killed them. I think they've gotten 28 offensive boards in the past 2 games. And without Ayton on the floor, they don't have Saric, who got hurt in the first game. They don't have any other big that can really rebound. And so I think the Bucks are just going to enforce their will, and they're going to lift the Larry O'Brien trophy on their home court.
Thank you, James Mueller. Keep in touch, man, and we'll see you on the next show. Take care.
Awesome.
All right, now I'm going to bring back in Mr. V. Ohio State. Slide over just a little bit, sir, to your left. Just a little bit to your left. There you go. All right. That was good. See?
Yeah.
Folks Talking Sports. We're branching out, people, and we got big things in store. Trust me, you just keep tuning into these live stream shows. We're going to continue doing, adding to the show, and we got one thing that I'm very proud of. I think we're very close to announcing, but we'll just have to keep watching to see what that announcement is going to be. All right. Rockets draft is 11 days away. Andy, did I text you this? Well, I want you to talk about this as well. But did I text you about Zach Harper from The Athletic having Quentin Grimes going to the Pistons?
You emailed me, yes.
What are your thoughts on that? And his assessment was kind of harsh. but go ahead, Andy. Well, you can chime in on it too. Let me see if I can pull it up while y'all talk. Quentin Grimes as a Piston.
I'm curious, Chris. What was the harsh part of the?
He talked about his handles not being good, his ability to score around the basket not being good. I mean, it's harsh. It was true. I mean, Quentin, I think, was a better ball handler in high school than he was, but he really wasn't asked to handle the ball that much at U of H. So, right. But yeah, Quentin Grimes at 37, second round to Detroit. I think that's about right. We had him kind of going late 30s, late 40s. That's about right. I don't see him. I'd be surprised if he goes in the first round, despite his great performance at the Combine. Will.
Sir.
Eric Gordon. Rumors being traded to the Pacers to get the Pacers' 13th pick, and then packaging that to the Pistons as part of a deal to get the first pick. And I'm going to stop folks right now. 13th pick, that ain't enough. You better come with something more than that. No, give me 13th
2 and 13.
Pick,
2 and 13.
Nope. 2, 13, and 23. Give me 2, 13, 23, and the pick back in 2022. Give me, I want all of that. All of it.
There's no way. There's no
Chris,
way.
The funny thing is, there's a lot of rumor and innuendo out there that the Pistons like Jalen Green, which wouldn't make sense if that were the case. It wouldn't make sense for the Rockets to make a trade if the Rockets really want Cade and the Pistons are leaning towards Jalen Green. couldn't the Pistons just take him with the number 1 pick?
See, there you go, Andy. You're being smart. You're using logic. A lot of these rumors and stuff being tossed around is just talk, it's just chatter, it's just articles, clickbait. You're trying to do all these different things. We could talk about rumors right now, whatever. It's teams doing their diligence, doing their job. Rafael Stone said it at the media gathering on lottery night that they were going to bring in 40 to 60 players, draft prospects to look at, work out. They were going to do their diligence in terms of making trades. He said all those things then. Yeah. So this other stuff, this is rumors. And the majority of trades that happen in the NBA, you don't hear about until they're done.
Yep.
Many of the rumors tossed about Team X looking at trade so-and-so to Team Y, they don't happen. More of those rumors don't happen than the actual deal. You never hear about the actual deal more times than not. You can say it's fun or whatever, but let's just go with Eric Gordon to the Pacers. If the Rockets can get out of that contract, go for it.
And the 13th pick, that'd be perfect. Especially, Kris and Will, I have this question. I'm curious where you guys, I guess, would place Davion Mitchell, Baylor's Davion Mitchell. He's a player I've been curious about just in terms of watching him play in the Final Four. I was really impressed with how he was able to dissect that U of H defense. And, most mock drafts that I've seen have him about that 7 to 12 range, somewhere in there. Where do you guys put him and what do you think about him?
I've seen him as low as 20, which surprised me.
Yeah.
He had a great season this past season. He was locked in from 3-point range. Defense was great. He did not shoot great from 3 prior to this past season. So some teams have concerns if this season was just an aberration, and the previous ones were his consistent mark. He's not that tall. Teams are going to nitpick, find little things here and there. Teams look for the perfect player. They want the ideal height, ideal arm length, all those things. And if you're in college too long, something must be wrong with you. Stuff like that. I think Davion Mitchell can play in the pros and be a help to whoever team gets him. I was glad to hear Saturday his Baylor teammate, Jared Butler, got cleared medically, because I didn't hear about it specifically except from one person, but apparently the issues were Jared's heart. There were some heart concerns, medical flags that caused some questions, but the NBA medical board cleared him. Jared, can really resume on-court workouts for teams and put in that grind and get together and get his name called on July 29th. So if the Rockets trade Eric Gordon for the 13th pick and some bricks and mortar, they would have that scenario, the 2, 13, 23rd, and 24th pick. What do you think they should do if they had 4 first-round picks in this coming draft?
I would probably look to package it into some deal and get a more established player who has a ceiling that could potentially grow with the core of this roster. But I was curious in terms of 13th pick, what would you think about the Rockets taking a flyer on some of these players, maybe Davion Mitchell or someone else?
If the Rockets got Mitchell, I think that'd be great. Will, I'm going to answer Andy's question, but Will, in the Rocket Detroit rumors, did you see or hear that folks were writing about Kevin Porter Jr. going to the Pistons as part of this deal?
No.
Yes. That was one of the rumors tossed out there. Yes.
So what that tells you, and that tells me, and that tells Andy, and that's proof positive that it's silly season. Don't believe anything that you hear. All of this, it's 11 days before the draft. Same thing with NFL drafts. You start hearing all kind of outlandish stuff, and it's like, stop it. Stop it. You might have had me if that made half a bit of sense, but no.
And I've seen people talk about Christian Wood going back to Detroit.
Now, I did see that. I did see.
Because Detroit regrets letting Christian Wood go. No, they don't.
No, they don't.
No, they don't. No.
Now, when they got the big guy with Stewart? No.
Yeah, Isaiah Stewart. No. The deal that they worked out, Rockets and Seawood, was $14 million per. The max Detroit wanted to pay Seawood was $10 million per. So no, they don't regret that. No, trust me on that. Trust me on that one. But yeah, it's silly season. It's fun season. I have, putting aside my media credential and putting on my Piston cap, one rumor that gave me pause to consider was OKC in trading SGA and OKC picks to the Pistons for the first pick. So it'd be like SGA, what is it, 5 and 18, I think, something like that for OKC.
It is.
For one. I paused and thought about that one. Because SGA Shea he's young. The timeline is the same for the Pistons. He's talented. You still have a chance to get who you want at 5 and get 18th pick as well. So I'd considered that one. Not gonna happen though, but I'd consider it, and it has some legs because Troy Weaver worked at OKC, so he and Sam Presti have a relationship, and I'm sure Troy Weaver had his hand in selecting SGA, or give SGA to OKC. So I would consider that one. But Cade Cunningham's going to be a Piston unless somebody blinks and gives Detroit the offer I'm putting out there. 4 first-round picks. That's 3 this year, and then the Pistons keeping their 2022 pick. Something like that. So yeah, that's what I think Troy Weaver is asking for is 3 first-round picks. Well, got there, Will.
We lost.
We just lost Will there.
See what happened? That's foolishness. My ears couldn't take that foolishness anymore, man.
Let's talk some Big Ten football. Big Ten Media Day. Okay. Put my hands up here, or prayer hands.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Big Ten Media Day is Tuesday or starts tomorrow?
Thursday, Friday.
Thursday, Friday, 2 days. In person, correct? Will?
Yes, Indianapolis.
Indianapolis. SWAC Media Day, Football Media Day. Birmingham, 1 day, in person. Pac-12, Football Media Day, in person in LA. SEC, 4 days. 4 days. I think Pac-12 is 1 day in LA. SEC's 4 days Football Media Day in Hoover, Alabama, in person. The American Athletic Conference, 2 days virtual. 2 days virtual.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. And
they're the last ones. It's not until August.
Yeah, it's August. And you have what we think one of the, where would you rank, Will, preseason, if you did it, Cincinnati football? Where would you put them? Where would you put the Bearcat football team this year?
I put them top 15. Top 15.
I'm good with that. Andy?
Yeah, I agree. I'd put them in top 15.
So you have a potential, in our case, consensus top 15 football team this year in your conference. You're going to have a virtual media day. You don't want to have it in person. And I'm putting it out there. You could, because I have seen teams do it. I've seen some leagues do it. You could require the media to show proof of vaccination if that's your concern. COVID vaccination, you show proof. Why are you not having media day in person? Hell, have it in Cincinnati, the city of your flagship program, because they are the flagship program in football. I just shake my head at that at the conference. I know I was told weeks ago they had the hiring freeze. I know about that. But that leads me to my next issue. What happened to the money you got from ESPN? The TV deal you got, the 12-year deal you got with ESPN for ESPN Plus. It was what, 12 years, initially $1 billion, right, Andy?
Yeah, sounds about it.
So roughly per school, member school, I think it's going to build up as the contract progressed. What, $3 million per, something like that, start off, whatever. But it's money going to the conference as well. So you got some money from ESPN. You can't have a media day in person, a football media day in person. Football is the flagship. As great as U of H men's basketball is, basketball does not make the world go round. This is football. You can't have a football media day in person? Please explain. Am I wrong? Am I wrong thinking that?
I don't think so.
Yeah, especially when you look at what the other Power 5 conferences are doing, and the American Athletic Conference loves to call themselves the Power 6.
There you go, sir. Say that one more time. Say that one more time.
The AAC loves to call itself the Power 6 Conference.
And every other big boy conference is having football media day in person. The AAC is doing virtual. Okay, so, and you got a top 15 program to tout. I sent out a few queries last few days trying to get some info on if the conference, if the AAC is working on content for their channel on ESPN Plus. Crickets. One of the teams I think should have, I think it's probably too late now, should be on ESPN Plus. Have a show about the Bearcats. Behind the scenes look. You know, Coach Fickle, some of the players, get to know the Bearcats. Top 15 program. You got ESPN Plus. You said it's just like having our own channel on ESPN. Okay. Utilize the platform then. Basketball season. Who's the best team? Point blank. Who's the best team in the conference? Basketball, men's basketball.
Houston.
Do a show about U of H men's basketball.
Especially coming off the Final Four run.
Final Four team. Amen. Women's basketball, best team is South Florida. UCF. Hell, do a show about U of H as up-and-coming team with a goal to get to the NCAA tournament. I'm pretty sure I feel safe in saying that Coach Huey would not have a problem being on ESPN Plus, having a show about U of H women's basketball on ESPN Plus.
Man, he'd love it.
Call that a hunch. I'm just going to say that. Call that a hunch. Well,
yes.
Who was the second best team in the Big Ten in football?
This year? Indiana.
Excuse me?
Indiana. This year.
The Hoosiers.
Yes. I know, right?
Okay, I said football, Will. I didn't say basketball.
I know.
Oh.
I know.
Okay.
I know.
So not that maize and blue people. Of course not.
Stop it.
Not Iowa.
No.
Not Penn State?
You know what? I like James Franklin. Here's the thing with James Franklin. And remember School Days? Remember the movie School Days?
Yeah.
And remember Mission College, the football coach, and at halftime he went in the locker room.
Yeah.
And he said, "Do you want me to lose my job?"
Yeah.
That's James Franklin every other year. This is going to be the year that Penn State does something because there's rumors and whispers, and the seats are getting a little warmer in State College for James Franklin. They're going to do something this year, but I can't say they're the second best team. They're going to win in spite of that because he has some things going on up there. And every year that the whispers get a little louder, they come up with a 10-2 season. So,
where will Nebraska be in the pecking order?
see, it's 14 teams in the Big Ten.
Yes.
I say that facetiously but seriously. 13.
Wow. How far the mighty have fallen.
And I'll say this. We have our good buddy AJ Jones has a nice little thing with Nebraska and more importantly Scott Frost. But in their defense, I mean, they had 78 freshmen and sophomores last year. 78 freshmen and sophomores. So in time, maybe in 2 years, yeah. But right now, yeah.
Yeah. What? Are they talented?
Are
they 2 and 3 stars, Will, like U of A's got?
Possibly. Yeah, some of them. Yeah, some of them. And he just ran off Little McCaffrey.
He's at Rice. Yeah. So U of A's will get to see him in game 2 of the season.
Yeah.
Which all of us say U of H must win that U of H Rice football game. So, yeah, Andy, I think you and Will have the series going 7.
No.
Originally, I had the Bucks in 7 after watching Milwaukee play the past 3 games. Phoenix's roster situation, I'm needing Bucks in 6. So I've completely done a complete 180 from where I was about a week ago.
So Will, you stand alone. So it's me, Andy, and James got the Bucks closing out in 6. You got the series going 7. Do you have the Suns winning in 7 or the Bucks winning in 7?
I have the Suns winning in 7. Suns in 7.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Any concern? Well, let's talk about this. I think they're playing right now. They're playing Spain in their final tune-up before the Olympics. Team USA men's team versus Spain. Oh, Will, got to get your thoughts on Kevin Love. Suddenly, his calf injury recovery wasn't good enough, so he decided to opt out. What are your thoughts on that?
He knew. The whole reason him being there was to get some traction on some trade talks. Now, with that not happening, it's buyout season. It's buyout season. They have to buy him out. I mean, you've heard rumors of packaging him and Colin Sexton to Miami. You've heard Colin Sexton individually to New York, to the Knicks. But Kevin Love, $60 million over the next 2 years. It's probably, he'll give back about 13, 14 million and spread that 46 million over the next 5 years and let him go sign with Brooklyn as he wants to do, or maybe go home to Portland.
Have the Cavs gotten to that point of a buyout?
They don't want to do it. But
sure.
Yeah, they're close. They're still trying to exhaust every option that they have. But
because Kevin Love, the brief minutes he did have with Team USA
was horrible.
Didn't show anything. So what incentive does another NBA team have to trade for him?
Exactly. That's it. I mean, in their mind, they still want to exhaust every option. But to the 29 other teams, they'll wait.
Is Team USA men's team in trouble because of their struggles? This is just my opinion, and get y'all to chime in, of course. The Olympics just aren't that important to me anymore. And I'm not knocking the international teams, because the goal 30 years ago was to grow the game globally. You're seeing hundreds of international players in the NBA. You're seeing the talent level spread out in other countries. So USA may have more individual talented players, but they don't play together long enough to have chemistry on offense and defense to just get it done against other good teams, other teams who have NBA players as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this team needs Drew Holiday. This team needs another perimeter defender, because Dame is a scorer. He is not a lockdown defender. Before he had to leave, Bradley Beal, better defensive player than Dame. He can't do Holiday. Other than Draymond Green, who else you got play defense on the perimeter? Yeah. Play it well. KD, okay, solid, but he ain't Drew. He ain't Draymond. So I'm not sure the pieces, and I'm not making an excuse, but COVID pushed everything off schedule, disrupting practice time and players being available and all those other issues. So they could lose. They could come home without a gold medal. They could come home. I don't know if they come home without a medal, period, like they did in the 2019 World Championships. I think they'll get a medal, but it's not that big of a deal if they do or don't. Yeah. Okay. What are your thoughts?
I mean, like you said right there, you're not the only one with that mindset. I feel like the NBA players themselves probably don't view the Olympics as, like some of these other countries, like you saw when Nigeria beat Team USA. I mean, it was a big win for them. And look at Australia, some of these other countries, Slovenia, who I believe Luka Doncic's Slovenia team.
Yep.
It's like the first time ever being in the Olympics or qualifying for them. Like for them, it's a much bigger deal. And when you look at, Team USA, they've been there, done that. That plays a factor. If that for lack of a better word, that mentality where it could come and make a difference once the games are close and down the stretch.
I think the lack of continuity is a factor. The other teams being talented is a factor. No fear factor anymore. They're not afraid of these guys anymore because they play against them all the time now. And ironically, the World Championship is more important internationally than the Olympics. The other teams, other countries want to beat USA in the Olympics because USA. But in terms of which trophy is more important, the majority of the countries will say the World Championship, not the Olympics. So, if they win, they lose. I've changed completely. Growing up, when I was Andy's age and younger, man, I would wave that flag, red, white, and blue. I would be almost in tears if you would say that I win a basketball gold medal. I would just, now, whatever. On the women's side, they lost to Australia Friday by 3, 70-67. Didn't shoot well from 3, 2 for 18. They bounced back today, routing Nigeria by 30. Played better defense, shot the ball better. Women's team is still the favorite to win the gold there. Going for their 7th consecutive Olympic gold medal. 7 in a row. That doesn't get enough attention, acknowledgement, appreciation. But if they don't win a gold medal, that'll be a big deal. To me, that'll be a big deal because women's basketball, the talent, there's still a gap, a wide enough gap between USA women and everybody else, as opposed to the talent gap between USA men and everybody else. The gap is shrinking, but when you got 6'8" Brittany Griner, 6'4" Asia Wilson, 6'4" Tina Charles, 6'4" Brianna Stewart, come off the bench with 6'5" Sylvia Fowles. I mean, I think, hell, Sue Bird might be the shortest player on the team. She's 5'9", 5'10". You know, I mean, but the front court, USA's front court women's team is the determining factor. They're deeper than everybody else. They just have to, like most teams, take care of the ball and play good defense. They do those things, they should win a 7th straight gold medal. Andy, are you going to watch the Olympics?
Depending on the schedule, depending the different times they play, I'd probably catch a few games, but kind of like what you said, I won't necessarily go out of my way to tune in.
It's a 16-hour time difference between here and Tokyo. I'm not getting up at 2 a.m. to watch something. You know what I'm saying? I'm too old for that. Years ago, I did dumb stuff like that. You know, because I'm telling you, I lived basketball, lived and breathed. What time is the game? Take a nap or whatever. Set the clock. I'm there. Now, I'll watch the replay. Or I'll see the ticker. Okay, they won. Good. They lost. Oh, well, whatever. You know. But, Will.
Yes.
Should the Olympics still be happening because of COVID and the rising cases in Japan?
Before I answer that, let me just give an update. Opening minute of the second quarter, Spain 21, Team USA 16. Should the Olympics be happening? As we just found out, 2 positive COVID cases in the Olympic Village. I don't know if this is one of them, but Coco Gauff announced she had to withdraw due to being COVID-19 positive today. It's tough, man. Should the Olympics be going on? It's tough.
Come on, Will.
I know, right?
Folks talking sports, man. Take a stand, man. Take a stand, man. Come on, baby.
Yeah,
that
man.
hesitation probably gives his answer.
Yeah.
The pause is your answer. Yeah.
It does. Mm-hmm. It does. Yeah. And yeah.
Because we know why it's happening.
Oh, we know why. Of course.
There are billions of reasons why it's happening.
Sure. And I can make the argument that, you know, with the schedule, World Championships next year. So do you take 2 years off? I mean, I know. I tried. Don't look at me like that, Kris.
No. I mean, the positive test in the Village. Give me pause now. Really, you know, concerns for sure. Yes. I mean, fans aren't going to be able to attend, so that's the ticket sales. $1 billion is gone right there for that revenue. That's down the drain. Mm-hmm. The Olympics is a money pit. You know, the city that wins the bid, mm-hmm. they promise all these things, you know, construction this and build mm-hmm. that. Many of those venues that are built are hardly used again.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a money pit. I could see it in a city that, like LA, because they already have the venues in place. They don't have to build new stuff. Well, that's where it should be. It doesn't make any sense, like, pronounce how you want to, Qatar, whatever. Of course, they got oil money, but they're building stuff. We know good well that stuff is never going to be used again. Never.
Yeah, the same was the case with Brazil, a few years ago.
You know, make all the promises. It's going to help neighborhoods. It's going to help build, you know, youth this trash. it's money gone that the citizens of that city will never see. They won't benefit from. Many of the poor folks will be kicked out, pushed out of their homes to build the new venues. It's a money pit.
Yeah.
But it's TV ratings, and I'm kind of curious to see the ratings NBC will get because of the huge difference in time.
Yeah.
With technology now, if you want to know the results, you can find out well before the rebroadcast of whatever event.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be an issue. Oh, and by the way, I did hear from her. Tamer Knight, she is at NBC headquarters in Connecticut. She arrived safely, was arriving at her hotel today.
Good.
Getting ready to begin working on Olympic coverage. The show will be on Peacock.
Yes.
She said, what was it, 7 p.m. to midnight, I think?
I believe so.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, wishing her well, success. I just encourage her to enjoy it. Work smarter, not harder, and network. So hopefully, I'm not sure. I mean, she should be busy, too busy to join us doing any of our live streams, but we'll get her on in future shows. I think I'm enjoying these shows, guys, and I thank you for being a part of them. I think you folks can see a little difference in the screen, the overlay on the screen. That's just one change going forward. We have others in the pipeline. So just keep tuning in. And Andy, anything you want to say as we close it out?
I guess I could I take this time to kind of plug something that we have upcoming, just in terms of the Apollo Media World. Potsdam and Jam, our crew, Dayon Dunlap, Justin Barbosa, and I, we're gonna do a bit of a merge episode with this other podcast that's under the Apollo Network. They're called the Launch Pod Podcast, or the Launch Pad Podcast. So they focus on the Houston Rockets, and we're gonna do an episode next Saturday. We're gonna record it next Saturday. Just do an NBA draft special, talk about players that are coming in. What the Rockets will do. Obviously, the number 2 pick is the main one, but those number 23 and 24 picks are big. Obviously, UH has a Quentin Grimes where he'll end up, and even Armani Brooks, who played for him this past season. Talk a little bit about him. So just kind of give a draft special, and that's something real cool that we have coming up down the pipeline.
And you sent it to me. Coogs, Justin Gorham signed a pro deal with a team in Germany, right?
Yes, correct.
And I won't butcher the name of the team.
I can. I'll pull it up right now.
But yeah, let's see. I think I found the thread here.
The telecom baskets. The telecom basket bonds.
I wonder if where that team is located. If that team is in a city that was damaged by the flooding last week. The flash floods. But I'm going to put this out there. Justin is in the air because I reached out to him to see if he could join us today on the show to talk about the new deal with Telecom. So at some point, hopefully in the future, talking about time difference, technology, try to get him on a show from Germany. So he and I have discussed that. He's open to do that. Oh. So, but he heads over to Germany August 4th. So keep that in mind.
That'd be awesome.
Wish him well. Hey, Andy, Will, I'm serious about making this thing work, man. I'm serious about making Folks Talkin Sports work. We're going to make this work. We're going to put in work together and make it happen. Will, anything in your mind you want to mention that before we close it out?
You mentioned USA basketball and not being a big deal. It's only a big deal if they don't win gold. It's like a foregone conclusion for decades that Team USA is going to win gold in basketball. I mean, as you said, 30 years ago, the dream team was to grow the game globally. And now that they've done that, it's kind of a bit of a pause. And I mean, this team got together on Wednesday and played a game on Saturday. You can't do that anymore.
Right.
You know, individual talent, absolutely. 1 through 15. And that's the thing. This team is individually talented, but it's not the best. You don't have LeBron. You don't have
Steph.
AD, Steph, Clay. You don't have those guys. And the world's caught up. They've caught up. They haven't surpassed Team USA, but they've caught up. Nigeria, 5 NBA players and an NBA head coach, a top assistant, former NBA head coach, leading them. So, you know, I think, you know, it may not garner the attention and the fanfare it once did, but I think still a big deal. It's Team USA. Let them win silver or bronze. Grant Hill's the new head of USA basketball, rather, after
Right.
Colangelo. Colangelo leaves
Right.
after this Olympics, and Grant Hill's going to take over. So it'll be interesting to see how Grant proceeds. But that all being said, I still think they have enough to win gold, especially once Middleton, Holiday, and Booker join. Tired as they will be, but
Yeah, that's my concern is how much will be left in the tank for those 3 guys, because I forget who it was who mentioned it on Twitter yesterday, but Drew Holiday, you can be much more physical defensively internationally than you can in the NBA.
Right.
Drew Holiday's defense will just disrupt almost every other team internationally that's playing. Period. But how much will he have in the tank? And how much can he give USA?
Yeah. I'm not entirely sure they'd join the team.
I mean, they'll be, and see, that's the thing. I assume they will have to test and go through protocols. So if the Bucks close it out Tuesday, USA leaves Monday, I think, for Tokyo. They leave tomorrow.
yeah.
So when will Drew, Book, and Middleton get to Tokyo, test, because I assume they're going to have to test when they get there, and then be cleared to play. So all those factors into it. COVID is still messing up everything. If this team in a typical summer had more time to practice and gel, I think they'd be better. But, you know, I mean, Spain won the World Championship in 2019. How many folks here knew that? How many folks here care about that? They don't. But Olympic-wise, if USA men don't win the gold, you know, be newsworthy. I think the thing that I don't like in sports, some folks will put a little asterisk by it and say, well, you know, it's COVID, blah, blah, blah. To a extent, that's true. It'll be a reason, not an excuse. But they need more time. They need more time. And FIBA's changing rules and making it more difficult for the NBA to send the USA, to send its best players to practice, to participate, because some of the competitions now are during the NBA season. Mm-hmm. Teams aren't going to send their players to participate in stuff like that. Hell, international teams don't do that anymore. So are you getting to the point where we're going to have G League team, the USA G League team compete to qualify for the Olympics? I'm being nationalistic in this instance. Why does USA have to qualify? We know this is the best team in the country, in the world. We know that. Why do they have to play through the Central Americas, play Canada, go through these qualifying tournaments? Come on, man. We all know who the best team, where the best players are. Let me get off my soapbox. Close it out. Folks Talking Sports. Thank you for the comments and questions. Oh, one thing, I promise I mentioned this to Arnold. He may have tuned out by now. But Arnold Strickland hit us up on YouTube. He believes Robert Horry is a Hall of Famer. I told him I didn't think so. Should Robert Horry be in the Hall of Fame? The Basketball Hall of Fame.
No. Great
He
player.
got-
Seven
He
rings.
got 7 rings.
Seven
Is
rings.
he a great player, Will?
He's a good player. He's a good player. He fit his role, and he maximized that opportunity. Hit some big shots. I mean, big shot Bob. I mean, that
Sure.
without question. But it's not the Hall of Big Shot. It's the Hall of Fame.
He averaged 7 points a game.
Right. See, no, can't do it.
7 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists
That's not
in
Hall of Fame.
1,100 NBA games.
No.
The most points he averaged was, wow, how about that? Was with the Rockets in 95. He averaged 12.
No, sir, I can't do that.
Yeah. That's interesting. I mean, you look at his college career too. He never got past the Sweet 16. So,
And that's part of it too. It is the Basketball Hall of Fame. It's not the NBA Hall of Fame. So yeah, even his college career wasn't that great. Wasn't stellar. So
he's got the rings argument though.
Oh, yeah.
Rings.
you know,
And he played, not only did he play pivotal roles in those teams, but he had a lot of those seasons where he made big shots for those teams. That's something that he has in his favor. And considering how long it's been that he hasn't been a Hall of Famer, I don't think he'll get in.
he never shot 50% from the floor. His best season was 47.6% with the Lakers in 97.
You lost me at 7 points a game. I was done after that.
Oh, yeah, I thought so too.
Yeah,
But,
yeah,
you know,
that's
I know, Rudy T said during his speech, his Hall of Fame speech, that he believes Robert should be in Hall of Fame. Sorry, Coach. I disagree. JaVale McGee has 3 rings. Okay,
and as long as it took Chris Webber to get in with Hall of Fame worthy numbers.
Agreed.
No.
All right, we're closing it out. Will, how can folks find you on the internet?
Appreciate you, sir. Will Gibson 7 on social media platforms, Twitter and Instagram. The Will Knowles page on Facebook and WTGsports.com.
Andy, how can folks find you?
On Twitter, it's at Yanez_5. Podcast Pod Slamma Jamma on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and at Community Impact Newspaper. We're doing getting my grind in that beat. I'm starting to get a lot more. How do I say it? I got my how do you say it? I got my feet running now. I'm getting more traction into the beats there individually. So looking forward to it.
And I am KG Kris Gardner of the Houston Roundball Review, HoustonRoundballReview.com, Houston Roundball Review on YouTube and Instagram. Twitter, you see it going across the screen there, is THEHR Review. Thank you for the folks tuning in. Andy, thank you, and Will, for spreading the word about it on your platform, social media, Twitter and Facebook. We had, I think, more folks tuning in this time. We'll discuss off air when we're going to have our next show. We're getting closer and closer to the NBA draft. Let's aim for one this week. Since Will's going to be wrong because the Bucks going to win in 6, let's see if we can have one Friday, but we'll finalize that off the air. And then definitely try to do something next week. Let's see if we can do 2, before the draft and then after the draft. Let's see if we can do that. So we'll discuss all that off the air. But thank you very much for tuning in to Houston Roundball Review presents Folks Talking Sports. More things in the pipeline. Keep tuning in. Keep following us on the platforms. We're going to shout out. Thank you to James Mueller for joining us, talking some U of H football and basketball. And once again, the invite goes out to folks at the Rice Thresher, folks at TSU as well, PV, HBU as well. Let's do this. We can make this happen. I'm not handling anybody. Y'all know more than I know a lot of things. Let's share the knowledge. Let's have some fun doing it as we progress in all of these ventures. We're tuning in. Thank you for tuning in to Folks Talking Sports tonight. Everybody take care. Guys, hold on. We're going to close it out. See you soon. Bye-bye.